Tom's previous company. He was with Tom's previous company and built a really good, successful business. So we're really happy to have him as part of the team. And he is an absolute wealth of knowledge. Ian's background is heavily into science, and he's even into energy healing as well. He's got lots of stories to share about that. So I was delighted when he took the time to put this information together, and I know he spent a lot of time putting it together. A lot of work has gone into it, and I really do appreciate that, and I'm sure you guys do appreciate it too. So he's going to give an overview of overall gut health, and then how the Sizzle products fit into that. So if you do have a pen and paper, now's a good time to grab a pen to take some notes. We do have a couple of videos in there as well, and there's a short recap of Tom's talk. And we've just pulled out the most important bits. And so this information is really important because, you know, Hippocrates said that disease starts in the gut. And the more you get into this, the more you realize how much that statement seems to ring true. So I'm going to hand over to Ian now and then mute myself out. I'll be doing the slides for him and allow him to talk through. So Ian, do you want to unmute yourself?
Thanks, Katie. Thank you. Wow. That was a fantastic entrance. Thank you for that, Katie.
Oh, that's okay. I didn't do it last time, and I apologise. I was too flustered, worried about changing, doing the controls. But this time I was a bit more organised. So. Okay, great. So let me just unmute myself and first slide.
Okay. This subject has been really dear to my heart because we don't realise just how important the gastrointestinal tract is to our health. In fact, it's the beginning of many things, good health or bad health. So our objectives tonight are going to be to have a look at the human body ecosystem, and there are many ecosystems, and you'll see in this little video we're going to run that it parallels with the water, the air, the sea, and of course our human body. So Katie, just to get us on the go, would you just run that little video for me, please? Next page.
The Earth has many ecosystems with unique resources and challenges, and your body does too. Just as you'd find different plants and animals in a rainforest than in a desert, each habitat on your body is home to a unique community of microbes. To thrive in a particular habitat, organisms must be able to take advantage of resources and cope with environmental challenges. They often have special adaptations that help them survive. Creatures in tidal pools have structures that anchor them to rocks, keeping them from being swept away. Similarly, microbes in your mouth use sticky molecules to attach themselves to your teeth. Near tidal pools, a different set of creatures lives on the soft sand of the ocean floor. In your mouth, a unique collection of microbes lives in softer areas too, including your gums, cheeks, and tongue. To support a living community, a habitat needs plenty of resources. In your mouth, both on teeth and on soft tissue, microbes have access to oxygen, water, and nutrients in the form of food particles, skin debris, and proteins secreted in saliva. Your large intestine provides a different set of resources. It is a warm, damp environment where nutrients are plentiful, and it's home to the body's densest and most diverse community of microbes. Like the species in Earth's ecosystems, members of your body's ecosystems depend on one another for survival. Lining the inside of the intestine is a layer of mucus. The microbes living here form a biofilm, where different types of microbes perform special jobs to keep the entire community healthy. Your body's ecosystems are diverse. Although it's a single organ, your skin has many different habitats. Each habitat has a unique combination of resources and challenges, and its own profile of microbes. Your forearm is a dry environment that gets lots of sunlight. Microbes that live here have adaptations to protect against light damage and to keep from drying out. Your underarms are damp with lots of sweat glands and hair follicles. Just like in the soil, where microbes are most dense around plant roots, microbes on your skin are dense around hair follicles, which contain the roots of your hair. Oily areas, like the skin on your back, tend to have fewer types of microbes. Oil is often antimicrobial, yet some microbes have adaptations that allow them to live here, and some even use the oil as food. Extreme environments on Earth have the fewest species, and those that can live there need special adaptations in order to survive. Your body has extreme environments too. In your stomach, microbes face the challenge of extreme acidity, yet those with the adaptations to survive have two big advantages: access to your food and very little competition. We still have a lot to learn about the ecosystems of the human body, but we do know proper balance is important for our health. Both in Earth's ecosystems and in our bodies, every species is important in keeping the ecosystem healthy. You are your body's wildlife manager.
Next slide, thanks, Katie. Thank you. That little video was really displaying the fact is that our ecosystems on the external side of our being are quite similar to what we're going to have a look at the inside. So we're going to now describe a little bit about these terms microbiota and microbiome and what do they actually mean. So let's go to the next slide, please, Katie. The human microbiota consists of a wide variety of bacteria and viruses. Next one back, please, Katie.
Sorry.
That's all right, not a problem. We're just going to look at the micro. There's a subtle difference between the two. One of them consists of a wide variety of bacteria, viruses, and fungi, and other single-celled animals that live on the body in little habitats, if you want to call them. And as we saw in the ecosystem there, they live in all different arrangements around the environment or on the body. So the human microbiome is the name given to all the genes inside the microbial cells. So this is about all the microbes, the little bits and fungi and stuff like that that are floating around inside our body, in our skin, our teeth, our ears, our eyes, and all that sort of area. So they're the genes inside the microbial cells. Next slide, thanks, Katie. This is really a little picture of the human microbiota. It just shows you the habitats around the body. So, and in this pie chart, we're showing here the amount of different bacteria that live in certain areas of your body. For example, the hair, you can see there, if you can just see the bottom of that picture, there's a lot of different bacteria and probacteria, and so bacteroidetes and cyanobacteriids and so forth and like that. So if you go down the body and across to the oral cavity, there's a more proportion of the proteobacteria in the oral cavity, and so in the esophagus, there's a greater potential there for the firmicutes, and so on and so on. So you can see that we have a really diverse and amount of different microorganisms that are inhabiting our body in habitats, as they call them. And they have some really interesting effects on our body when they become a little bit overwhelmed or out of balance. Next one, please, Katie. This is the human microbiota. We're looking at the clusters of bacteria in different parts of the body here. And what we're showing here is just some of the areas that we'll get bacteria, fungi, parasites and viruses. So just actually, I think it's got a couple of parts of this, Katie. You might have to push. I remember That's it. And just keep going till the end of it there. That's it. So you'll see here, there's another one too, thank you. You'll see here that the mouth oral microbiota there, it's all made up of different things that we saw in the last slide. I just wanted you to get a bit of an idea where they're located. And particularly we have parasites as well. They're all running around, not helping us. Okay, Katie, next slide, please. Okay, let's have a look at the microbiomes. They're made up of, as you can see in this slide here, there's a whole bunch of different things, animals, fungus, and all sorts of different beasts. Next one, please, Katie.
What is the
This is going to be
microbiome?
a short video about the microbiome.
Though we don't often think about it, we're actually more
Thanks,
non-human than human. Trillions of microscopic organisms, or microbes, call the human body home. Organisms such as bacteria, viruses, fungi, and even microscopic animals live all over our body, on our skin, and even inside us. These tiny organisms make up our microbiota, and most of them, about 95%, live in our gastrointestinal tract, more commonly known as our gut. And the combination of microbes, their genes, the environment they live in, and the stuff they produce is called the human microbiome. We've actually known for a long time that the human body is teeming with microscopic organisms. Dutch scientist Antony van Leeuwenhoek observed bacteria scrapings from his mouth way back in 1683. But it's only relatively recently that we've begun to study the relationship between our microbiome and our health. And while the research is still in its infancy, the microbiome has been linked to everything from obesity, asthma and allergies to autoimmune disorders such as rheumatoid arthritis and diabetes. The microbiome also influences how our brain functions and is linked to conditions such as depression, anxiety and stress. These links explain why there is now an emphasis on creating or maintaining a healthy gut. And a healthy human gut consists of several thousand types of bacteria, as well as other microbes, though some types would be more common than others. The exact composition of a person's microbiota is unique, and it's constantly changing. It depends on what you eat, where you live, who you live with, what you touch, and even how you were born. Before we are born, we have very little, if any, microbes inside us. Microbes really start to colonise our bodies the moment we are born. The way we are born, either naturally or by caesarean, influences the type of microbes we first contact, and hence the type of microbes that will first colonise our bodies. Babies born naturally come into contact with microbes found in the mother's intestinal and vaginal fluids, whereas in a caesarean birth, babies tend to be colonised by microbes typically found on the skin and in hospitals. Similarly, breastfed babies will have a different microbiota profile than formula-fed babies. From the day we are born, our microbiome evolves quickly and reaches maturity during the first 2 to 5 years. After that, it stabilises, resembling that of an adult. As adults, changes to our microbiota are likely to be small, but major shifts in composition can occur when we radically change our diet or take antibiotics, which kill bacteria. Significant life stages such as puberty, pregnancy and menopause also cause large changes to our microbiome. And as we get older, our microbiome ages too, and the number of microbe species decreases. Since most microbes are in our colon, or large intestine, what we eat feeds our microbiota. And what a healthy microbiota needs are fibre-rich, complex carbohydrates. Simple sugars, found in refined carbohydrates, tend to be absorbed quickly and don't reach the colon for the microorganisms to feast on. But complex carbohydrates can't be digested in the small intestine and make their way into the colon, where bacteria breaks them down through fermentation, enabling us to use nutrients we couldn't otherwise. And the microbiota provides essential vitamins that we can't make ourselves, such as B vitamins. Perhaps most important of all, the microbiota helps our immune system develop, effectively training it to distinguish between good microbes and bad pathogens that cause disease. This symbiotic relationship between humans and the trillions of microscopic organisms that live on and within us has evolved over thousands of years, and we couldn't survive without the many specialised functions they provide.
Thanks, Katie. As you can see from that little video there, that the gut has a really important place in our health system. As you can see that in this particular slide here, it's the second major interface between the outside world and human internal environments. The actual tube which runs from the mouth down to the anus is about 9 meters long, with an area of 250 to 400 square meters. So it's quite a long piece of hose that is used to allow us to get our vitamins and minerals and whatever into our blood system. The microbiome weighs between 1 and 2 kilograms, that's all the bugs, and exceeds the liver in the number of biochemical substances and reaction in which it participates. Now, this means that the biochemical reactions going on in the gut are in excess of what the liver does on an everyday basis, which is a heck of a lot. During a lifetime, this is pretty interesting, is over 60 tons of food will pass through the gastrointestinal system. Now, that's a lot of food to be digested and processed. So depending on what you eat and how you eat it is what your health will probably be made of. Thanks, Katie. So the microbiome is really important to our health, and this is I put together these symptoms here, or these conditions that you can get from the microbiome being out of whack, which means it's out of balance, the good or the bad are well out of balance. So you get this regulation of the immune system and metabolism. And it's also proper digestion, absorption of nutrients, proper production of hormones and neurotransmitters that affect mood and memory. I've put down here serotonin is one of the ones that goes from the gut to the brain, which is one of the feel good. It's also used in other areas. We also have antimicrobial protection against dangerous microbes and pathogens. These microbes actually protect us against these really bad pathogens, and the way they do it, we'll just have in the next slides or so. Production of short-chain fatty acids. These are produced in there after you, from the food that can't be digested. You get fermentation, which actually, as you saw in the film there, produces some products like vitamins, and which are like the B's and the K's, which are important for our functioning. It also controls blood glucose, gives us insulin sensitivity, and also has an aim at inflammation, allergy protection, intestinal motility, which is just the passing down through the gut, production of vitamin B and K, absorption of minerals like calcium, magnesium, and zinc. These microorganisms aid the passing of that through into the bloodstream, and also some energy production. So there's quite a few things here that your gut is responsible for, and if we don't look after it, these things go awry. Thanks, Katie. This is a little picture I put in here which shows, from what we've just been talking about, some of the things that the gut is involved in. Up the top there, number 7, modulation of the nervous system, small chain fatty acid production by fermentation of dietary fibre. That's the fibre that is not digestible, so it ferments it and produces something else from it. Promotion of fat storage, promotion of intestinal angiogenesis, protection against pathogens, synthesis of vitamins, which we've got here, K and B12, and also trains up the immune system to be able to handle all these bacteria that are, and pathogens that might want to attack us. Thanks, Katie. So why is the gut microbiome so crucial for your health? Let's have a look at the next slide, Katie. So let's have a look at the factors that actually alter the health of the microbiome. According to a hypothesis, and this was one of the people that made a statement about it, Martin Blaser, 2009, we're talking about the original ancestors that were on this earth that had a particular microbiome and have evolved since ancient times, having a very diverse, excuse me, and commensal microbiome beneficial to the body. So these were beings that only ate from the ground, from the land, and didn't have anything like antibiotics, or didn't have any other like McDonald's or anything like that. Can I mention McDonald's? Sorry, and all those sorts of things. And so they lived a reasonably healthy life within their microbiome. So as we progressed through time, our modern medical practice and our lifestyle, the fast foods that we take, the drinks that we have, created some really interesting changes within our biome. And this is different from the ancestral ones. And what they found is that the populations, the microbiome in the human populations changed, and this sometimes was so extreme that this involved many degenerative disease taking place. So what happens is that we are changing our microbiome by what we do and what we eat and what we drink. So it's really important to take note of all these things. Thanks, Katie. So one of the things that happens within the intestine is we get intestinal plaque, or what they call biofilm. What is it? Well, in reality, you can see in that photo there's a lot of stuff looking like spider webs and stuff like that. Well, this is a sticky film that's made up of microscopic organisms that actually attach to each other to create this biofilm. And these bacteria can be either good or bad doing this film. Next slide, please, or next part. So an example of this plaque or biofilm is it can be seen on your teeth. Now, these are microbes causing this plaque or biofilm build-up, usually on the inside of the teeth. Just you can see there at the base of the teeth. And it becomes a really strong structure so that it's very hard to remove. But they're just made up of bacteria that have colonized themselves and got themselves together. And that's to protect themselves from outside environments. So it's very hard to get rid of them, except usually through a dentist who has to scrape them off and whatever they actually do there. Thanks, Katie. Yeah, that's just... So bacteria, they actually form the biofilms inside the body too. And this is in the gut. This is where it really becomes a little bit more serious about the films that are placed in there. They usually decide that they're going to put a film usually over the villi, which is the little protrusions in the gut or the intestine, which actually allow us to capture and absorb nutrients and pass them into the bloodstream for the beneficial use of our body. Now, in this picture here, you can see there that we have friendly bacteria and we have unfriendly bacteria. Now, I've got a red arrow pointing down. Sorry about that. I have a red arrow pointing down to a substance there. Now that is actually a biofilm. It's really a very hard plaque, which prevents us from actually absorbing nutrients by the villi. It covers the villi surface. It's really a mixture of all the bad microbes that actually get together and create this mix of plaque. And they do it by using proteins and sugar from the food structures that come through. And what it does is it's just a colony that's protecting themselves like a fortress. They actually put this shield over them, top of them, and this can't be really eradicated. And you'll find out that antibiotics don't even touch them because the actual film is impervious to the antibiotics. Now, we do have an answer to that through the sizzle products, which we'll come to a bit later. Thanks, Katie. So what we're looking at now is how does the GI tract protect itself from the biofilm when the gut flora is imbalanced. Friendly bacteria, they create a healthy biofilm, and this is characterized by a thin mucus layer over the villi, and this protects the intestinal wall. Now this friendly film, or this biofilm, is such that it lets the passage and absorption of nutrients onto the intestinal wall. It also provides something else that's really interesting, is it provides a lubricating and moisturizing benefit as well as an anti-inflammatory action. Now this lubricating property also allows us to, or allows the body to naturally eliminate some of that biofilm by the fact is it's very hard when it's lubricated to stick to the villi or to the surface of the gut. Next one, please, Katie. So these are some of the just back one, please, that's it. Some of the things that really affect the intestinal microbiome, and this means what we're talking about here is we're reducing the balance of good bacteria to bad bacteria. So these things are like processed foods, toxic restrictive diets, so incorrect for one's metabolism, which means that you can't continually eat foods that don't have any fibre, because fibre is extremely important for us to keep the balance between the organisms and also to keep the flow of food through the system. Toxic, well, we do eat a lot of different things today which have a lot of toxic things in them. We can't mention too many names, but I think we know that there are a lot of foods out there, particularly fast foods, that are not conducive to a good health. Drug use, a lot of the drugs like, we can take an anti-inflammatory, that has a very interesting effect on the gut. They're also mentioning here that, as we saw in the video earlier on, increasing caesarean sections are changing the micro or the flora within the baby. Although research is now showing that they originally thought that the babies were actually pristine or sterile, but they're actually finding that now that within the womb that they do have some bacteria that have formed. Not a lot, but some. But they gather most of it when they're taken from the mother. Antibiotic use is a really good one, because once you take an antibiotic, you will find that most of your good bacteria flora disappears, and so you're left really at the mercy of whatever's hanging around there, and some of those can be, extremely dangerous to your health. Use of antibacterial hygiene products. We seem to be now going to the supermarket, we buy a hands cleaning solution which has got written across it, antibacterial, anti-whatever. These things are actually, yes, they clean your hand, but they also clean good bacteria away from every situation you have. Also, lack of physical exercise. That's really an important part. It gets the exercise, gets your whole metabolism going, blood flow, the whole exercise is really good for you. And of course, most of us now know what high stress is. We usually find that there are situations where your blood pressure goes up, the steam comes out of your ears. Well, that changes the stomach and the microbiome in the stomach by introducing excess acids and different types of things. Thanks, Katie. Next one. Okay. So when the microbiome is out of balance and in the absence of appropriate microbial diversity, what we find here is the microbiome becomes directly involved in the development of disorders. Now, these things have come from pretty much from research that I've been looking at. So you'll find that, when you've got this balance of bad against the good bacteria, you end up with these types of different diseases. Or you could actually have some of them. You get alcoholic. I'm not going to go through all of them, but you can read them there. There's quite a lot of things that the gut, if it's not in correct balance, can actually create or have you feel. And some of them there, like which we're seeing more today, is Alzheimer's disease. They're finding that there's a connection between the gut and the brain. There are multiple connections between the brain with the nerves, and so they're finding out that there's a plaque being applied to the brain. There's what are some other ones? Autism, they found in research that that's somewhat similar to Alzheimer's. There's a connection between the gut and the brain. Chronic fatigue, high cholesterol and triglycerides, they can be affected as well. Metabolic syndrome, which we're now finding out that we're sort of seeing the rise of lots of different diseases in that one. Obesity, Parkinson's disease, rheumatoid arthritis, and diabetes. Diabetes is really part of the metabolic syndrome. So these things are reasons why we should be looking at how we treat our gut. Next one, please, Katie. So what are some of the ways we can assist the body to maintain a healthy gut? Microbiome. Let's have a look, Katie, please. So we need to take the diversity and balance it between the good and the bad. And I just keep mentioning them, they're good and bad, but they're bacteria and other things, mainly bacteria, the predominant parts of bacteria. In general, people who consume prebiotics and probiotics from supplements will actually enable their whole gut system to be pretty well balanced and be in a normal state. So if you consume adequate amounts of fiber, extremely important to eat fiber, and that little picture on the right top corner there shows a lot of different vegetables and product that is really good in fiber. And as well here, we mentioned traditionally fermented foods, and I've mentioned here sauerkraut, and that's a picture on the bottom right. Fermented foods provide a really good pre or probiotic because they're fermented by using bacteria. So they actually add to the gut flora, and so in a beneficial manner. So eating those types of food are extremely beneficial. So as we see here, you know, that's it's pretty easy to maintain your gut if you just take care of what we eat and what we drink and what we do with our exercise and things like that. So next one, please. Okay, 5 steps to healthy gut. We can follow these 5 simple steps. Okay, we can eat fiber-rich whole foods. We're talking about whole foods. Whole foods are those that are grown, have like broccoli, carrots, anything that's water-based. It's important that too in how we actually cook these foods. It's cooking them. I remember the old-fashioned way you used to put them in the pot, boil the absolute crap out of them, and then I think they were still rich, full of vitamins and minerals, and I think the fiber was about the only thing that got through. Also, very important that we limit sugar. Sugar is another story. Processed food, animal fats and animal proteins, these need to be limited to some degree. We need fats and we need protein, but not in excess. Avoid the use of antibiotics, acid blockers and anti-inflammatories. There are other things too, like blood pressure tablets and different medications that do have an effect on the biome. But there are times when medical advice is necessary, so you have to make a decision there with yourself. Now, do a liver and GI detox. Now, this is this is one path where Sizzle has a really great product, and I've got them up on the right-hand side of the screen here. The liver and GI detox, which is called a super detox, and we'll discover that or discuss that a little bit later on. And of course, we take pre and probiotics daily. These are really important because of pretty much our diets that we have today. So, and I think the next videos, or some of the videos we've got Tom actually explaining both these products, so I won't go into it in a big way. Next slide, here we go. So this is the gentleman that's going to, Tom, the senior president, chief scientist. He's going to actually give us a rundown on those two products, being the guy that put them together and produced them. So I think he'd be the best one to tell us about them. Thanks, Katie.
This material, when the nutrients are taken out of it pretty well, or as it's happening, starts to deposit, because between these fingers, it's just like sticking your hand down into some jam, and you put your hand all the way in and you brought it out. Well, your fingers would be all sticky, but as you held your hand up, see down in the bottom between the two fingers, you'd be collecting jam. Well, that's what happens with the villi in the system. So they start collecting what's called, it's a plaque. It's called mucoidal plaque. Now this mucoidal plaque is really thick and tarry, and in it contains very large amounts of toxins, especially toxic heavy metals for one, because it just gets in the tar pit, so to speak. So now as the mucoidal plaque starts to build up over a length of time, because of the amount of food you eat over a number of period of years, as that starts to build up, you start losing your ability to absorb the nutrients on the percentages that you did when you were younger. And the longer you live, the less it gets. In fact, as I saw, and I don't know how they came to this, but it was a number of years ago, but John Wayne, the famous movie actor, when he died of cancer, but they did an autopsy on him, and they found that he had about 60 to 70 pounds of mucoidal plaque in his lower intestine. Now, that's a lot, but you know, proportionately, I think we're all moving along that same area with what we're doing. This is why a lot of people in nutritional science are saying you should eat fibers. And some of these products that you use for digestive tract are fibers because they have a scouring effect, almost like sandpaper, if you can think of it that way. Scouring effect is it goes through to kind of scrub off some of that mucoidal plaque. And it's somewhat efficient. It improves flow. It can help against constipation because it's breaking things loose. But in reality, you're building up a dense mucoidal plaque, and less of those villi, the length of it is sticking out to absorb. But now you have it absorbing all of the toxins that are deposited, or most of the toxins that are deposited in mucoidal plaque. So this is the real story, kind of like National Enquirer, and they used to have something like that. You know, if you want the real story, here it is. This is a whole story about it. But if you look at all of those things, then you want as little mucoidal plaque as you can have in your body, and it's impossible. It's like if you never brushed your teeth, how much plaque would you get on your teeth? So this principle is kind of the same. So what we've done is I've gone out and I've looked around things that would do a number of things to mucoidal plaque. Number one is to solubilize it, to break it down in a variety of different ways. Enzymes play a big part of that type of thing, as do some other types of material, so it becomes, instead of impacted, it becomes more fluid. And so it goes from like a hard paste into kind of a jelly, and then the next facet that comes through is something that works with the lining of the villi and of the lower intestine to make it want to secrete. So the mucoidal plaque, it's doing it anyway, especially when you're younger, but can't keep it and get older, but it secretes compounds that suddenly separate the mucoidal plaque from your tissue, from the tissue of the villi and the tube that's going down through your small intestine. So now it becomes dischargeable. And if you've ever tried super detox, I heard a guy once say, don't take it and travel. And boy, I tell you, that's really, because when it decides to release, it does release. And so it's not the kind of thing you'd use every day. You use it once in a while. I'd use it probably once a week anyway. If it was me, it will keep you very regular. But it's not just keeping you regular, it's keeping you very healthy, because it is solubilizing, dissolving, releasing the mucoidal plaque that is impacted within the lower intestinal tract, so it just flushes out. And so that's a major difference between ours and anything else that's being used. In fact, there's one of the most common ones being used. They have milk of magnesia. You've seen that for constipation. And what it does is milk of magnesia just kind of is not absorbed well. And so then there's a little effect that goes against it that helps to improve lubricity, a reaction from it. So milk of magnesia can sort of work on the plaque, but long-term use is not so good for you. But with the other products, they're now using probably one of the biggest sellers out there now, ranks maybe with milk of magnesia, is basically just industrial antifreeze. It's propylene glycol. And all they're doing is just trying to, it's water soluble, of course, so you're taking that, they're putting it in a gel, and they think they're able to penetrate, which they are, to the bulk material, and help it to flow out, to slip out more easily. Well, that's great. I mean, that's like if you were hunting elephants, you wouldn't want to take a slingshot, would you? Maybe not even a bow and arrow. You'd want something that has some power to really do what needs to be done. And that's the philosophy that I have. And so I have all of these ingredients in it to solubilize, break down, and I have to use the right word. It's illegal to say stimulant because that makes it a medical product. But anyway, to support the activation of the release mechanisms that will let mucoidal plaque release, flow free, and because it's in a solubilized form, can leave the body. Now, since mucoidal plaque is not a part of your body, your tissue, therefore we can handle the solubilization of that, and we do that with a variety of types of ingredients, especially enzymes that work on it. So anyway, that's how it works. Now you're clean as a whistle, so to speak, if you keep using it, and it won't get it all. I mean, if you have 40, 50, 60 pounds of it build up within your system, which could happen, even if you had 10 or 20, that's a lot. Think of 10, that's 2 5-pound blocks of cheese in the volume. So whatever it is, you don't get it all at once, but you get a disproportionately much larger amount of it than you would through any other system or the natural system. And so you can remove it faster. And that's the key to it. Remove it faster, but where others will not remove it. The others aren't designed to address the removal of it. They're addressed to improve the lubricity or the solubility of the fecal material. So we're taking the right way to do it. We have an elephant gun that we're going after that with, because it will solubilize and release the mucoidal plaque, and out it goes. And now your surface area, or your villi, is much greater, and the plaque, the tars that have been coating it and inhibiting absorption of nutrients are diminishing, and so therefore the consequences of you being healthier is significant. Now the other thing, and I hate to go on too much about this because I can talk a lot about all products that I make, and these aren't from notes. This is just from, I put all the formulas together, so I really head the R&D department, then I know what these things are, so I can speak freely because I have a thorough knowledge of them. And the other thing that happens is what happens in your low intestine. how do you break down a lot of the micronutrients or the nutrients into micronutrients when they leave the stomach in the lower intestine? Well, it's done because of what they call the flora, and that's the microflora of your digestive system, and that has to do with most of you probably heard of good bacteria, bad bacteria, harmful bacteria, friendly bacteria. Okay, there's a balance of those that are within your intestinal tract, and of course they are so important with breaking down those micronutrients. And if the balance is right, then the system functions real well. But here is the problem. If you have ever taken antibiotics, you have killed off most of the friendly bacteria that are healthy for you, and the bad bacteria actually take up a lot of that volume. And so now the balance is heavy amounts of the bad bacteria, small amounts of the good bacteria with it. So we have, if we're going to clean it out, then if you take an antibiotics, your digestive system is permanently out of whack, and it will not naturally correct itself. It cannot, unless you do something with it. So we have these microbiological agents that we now add into the product, and they replenish the good bacteria that has been so damaged because of antibiotics. And since most people have had an antibiotic, you're out of whack. And even if you think you are, when you take antibiotics again, it puts you out of whack, and you're out of whack permanently until it gets corrected, and it won't correct on its own. So that gives you an idea how important it is to support the good microflora within your system. But it's not a one-size-fits-all. There are many different varieties of the bacilli that you need in the system. So, I mean, a lot of people are familiar with acidophilus. It's a common one that's used, but there's new versions of that. They're much more effective. And then there's a few others that are revolutionary and new type of lactobacillus that is exceptional, and some other types of microorganisms that we put in. I won't go through them in all detail because it's not important to know that. But the thing about it, some of them are very effective on proteins, some are effective on starches, on sugars, on the different types of fats that are there. And all of that can break those down so they can be absorbed properly by the body, and the waste can pass on more freely. So this product is formulated for that. And it's done so in a number of different ways. Now, with that, we also have a couple of different types of fibers. So I just talked about products with fibers, and they weren't that effective. But if you can solubilize it and you can get the release, then the scouring power of fibers can remove a lot more too. So we're throwing everything we can at it to make it as effective and comprehensive in every single way. So if we can remove the molecular plaque, if we can get rid of the toxins, if we can take down those inflammatory responses, which we all get from them, then we can absorb more nutrients. But if it's out of balance because of antibiotics or your lifestyle or whatever it is, you can put it back in balance. But that needs to be supplemented all the time. And the dosages of this it's done in units. And so they're calculated in units. And some of these I put in have got 50, 100 billion colonies, not just of the bacterium itself, but colonies of them. And one of them has 200 billion colonies. And so you can really repopulate that quickly because of this type of technology we use.
Okay. Yeah, that was an interesting presentation by Tom, which I believe explained the products far better than I could at this stage. So anyway, the features and benefits and support, and I think Tom's covered them pretty much. We'll just recap here. is that it helps support healthy liver and bowels, supports the detoxification, your intestinal tract and your body. It helps remove mucoid plaque from your body, and Tom explained the process by using Super Detox and using the Balance D, which has got the has the means to actually scrub the intestinal wall. Helps the system with nutrients need for eliminating bodily toxins. So there's amazing properties in this particular Super Detox. Thanks, Cody. Next one. Okay, the features and benefits of Balance D. Helps to create an ideal environment for probiotics to thrive, supports healthy microflora, lends support to your body to absorb calcium with vitamin D, removal of excess waste, supports the removal of harmful chemicals from your GI tract. Its fiber content promotes intestinal regularity, and it's 100% gluten-free. So between the two of these products and what you eat, what you drink, and some of the environments that you are involved in, then you will find that you can maintain extremely healthy gut or gastrointestinal tract. Thank you, Katie. So as we've seen and heard, the absolute importance of gut health, it's very important to your health and well-being. So I don't know whether we can answer questions here tonight, but if you have any questions, please talk to the person who invited you to this presentation. Thank you very much for your attention. I hope you got something out of this. As I reiterate again, it's extremely important to maintain your gut health and your flora balance. Thank you.